those of you who've been around long enough know that I tend to like to start my teachings with some humor because I'm not very good at injecting it in the middle. So I like to put it at the beginning. So anyway, and I always like to do the little man-woman thing because I think they're really funny. So here's one I found. This is really, really funny. 5 reasons that computers must be female. Ready? No one but their creator understands their internal workings. Even your smallest mistakes are immediately committed to memory for future reference. The native language used to communicate with other computers is incomprehensible to everyone else. It's very true. Have you ever noticed that? You ever been at a restaurant where there's like 4 ladies at a table and they can all be talking all at the same time and still be understanding what the other 3 are saying? You have an amazing brain power to do that. It's incredible. The message, bad command or file name, is about as informative as if you don't know why I'm mad at you, then I'm certainly not going to tell you. Number 5, as soon as you commit to one, you find yourself spending half your salary on accessories for it. All right, now here's 3 reasons why a computer must be male. You have to turn them on to get their attention. Although they are supposed to solve problems, half the time they are the problem. And number 3, as soon as you commit to one, you realize that if you only had waited, you could have had a better model. Oh my goodness, I'll tell you what, I just think some of those things, whoever thinks these things up are fun, they're just really funny. So anyway, you know that thing that we talked about a little while back about trying to find God in every situation. I hate to tell you a story this week that was really kind of funny. It was Friday, and you remember in the morning it was really, really hot. I mean, hot, sticky, humid, and everything. And I walked out of the house to go to work, and I felt that just immediate boom hit you, right? Yes, Nicole. The hot weather's fun on pregnant ladies, isn't it? Yeah, no. Anyway, so it just hit me in the face, and the first thing I thought of was, oh, Father, you've got to get rid of this humidity. You have to get rid of it. Man, I am humming. Am I like really, really loud? You've got to get rid of this humidity. All these kids playing football tonight. I mean, there's going to be cramps. There's going to be lung problems, heart problems, heat exhaustion. I mean, there's going to be some kids that could seriously get hurt permanently if we can't get rid of this humidity. So please do something. So anyway, later on that morning, as luck would have it, one of our delivery drivers had quit, so I had to go out and take delivery. So I'm loading up, right? As God is my witness, between here and that door is all the farther I got to travel, right? As I left the door, the heavens opened like God commanded Noah to build the ark. And I got drenched. I mean drenched. My underwear was wet. I mean, I got drenched, okay? And I had to live like that the rest of the day. The rest of the day, I was just soaking wet. And I thought, okay, why? And I thought, oh, yeah. That rain came in here and completely knocked the humidity out of it. And it was less humid. So there it was. I found God in the fact that I got caught in the rain and completely drenched. It's just an example. You can find him everywhere. You really, really can. And if you look at life through God's lenses like that, life becomes a whole lot more pleasant. Life becomes so much more pleasant. And it was just a gentle reminder to me to always look for him in good things. I had another example. I was in a hurry, and I got caught by a red light. My wife and my son will tell you how much I detest red lights. I swear, those little silver boxes, they are spawns of Satan. I know they are. They come from hell. I'm certain that they do. But anyway, I got caught by a red light, and I thought it was going to make me late for work, and I'm like, you know what? This is just ridiculous. As I'm seeing it turn yellow and then red, and I'm slowing down, I'm thinking, oh, I can't believe this. I just can't believe this. And just as it was turning from yellow to red, a guy came flying through the intersection this way, completely blew the red light that he had, because it certainly had not turned green yet, because mine had not turned red yet. And of course, you know, that turns red, then it waits a couple seconds, and then it turns green. I don't know whether he missed his break. I don't know whether he was texting. I don't know whether he was not paying attention. But he went ka-floom, and that just told me, had that light not turned yellow and I had kept going, I probably would have been broadsided by that guy, because he just completely went through it. So even in the red lights that I can't stand, I found God. So just a couple of things. Now, I promise I'll try to keep this kind of short, because I know everybody's got some things that they need to do. But a week ago, when Pastor Tim said, you know, I'm going to be gone, do you have something you think you can share next week? And I said, I'll find something. God usually finds something for me to talk about. And I turned around to walk away, and God spoke to me and said, you need to talk to Lisa Davis about what I want you to talk about next week. You need to go talk to Lisa about the message that the people need to hear. Well, as it happened, we had made arrangements to go out to lunch that day with Matt and Lisa. And we went to a place in outside of Fort Wayne called Salvatore's. Anybody ever been there? Raise your hand. Oh my goodness. It's heaven on a plate. Man, that is good stuff. Take a big appetite. Take a really big appetite. Have you ever been there, Joel? Oh my goodness, you guys need to go. You really do. Go there. It's the food is phenomenal. And then when you're stuffed full, then they say, do you want any dessert? And you say, oh, I'm full. And then they show you this picture of this cinnamon roll thing on a plate that's like this long and this big. And you say, well, we can share it. And then when it comes and you take one bite, it's like, I don't want anybody else to have any. But it was so good. But we had a wonderful time. We went and we were supposed to discuss Lisa's business and the ideas that I have for her to get that thing up and running and you know, get some marketing done and get some people doing what God has led her to do. And we never got there, because the discussion that ensued was just so incredible that we just kept going with it and kept going with it and kept going with it. Has anybody ever heard of the tree of 40 fruits? Anybody ever heard of that? Did you successfully get that loaded, Matt? We're going to find out, I guess. If you can't get it, we're going to allow everybody to look it up on their cell phones, because you got to see this. Well, and that's I was going to get to that. Amazingly, it looks a lot like that, but you got to see this if you can. How we doing? Not so good? All right, everybody, take your phone out. Those of you who have smartphones, and get on Google and Google tree of 40 fruits. Okay? You're allowed to do that today if you have a smartphone. I will not fine you $25. Yeah, isn't that amazing? Joel just said, holy crap. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's quite all right. We have an amazing thing growing in the tree of 40 fruits. And let me explain. When I asked Lisa, what is it that you're supposed to tell me that I'm supposed to give to these other people? Because apparently he's laid something on your heart that he hasn't laid on mine, and I need to hear this. So she says, well, this is what he's laid on my heart. There's this tree, and it's a big, big, beautiful tree with a big... Your hostess with the mostest, Amber, is showing everybody the tree. Okay? There's this big tree, and it's deep, deep rooted. And it's got a big, beautiful, strong trunk. And it has many, many, many branches that bear fruit. And what I'm going to say works in every facet of life. It works in your family. It works at your workplace. It works here in your house of worship. It works in any facet of life that you can think of, what I'm about to say. But you have this big, beautiful tree. And picture it, whether it's your family, your church, or whatever. Okay, let's say it's your church. You have this big, big, beautiful tree. And then there's this picture of this smaller tree that's cuddled up next to the big tree, but isn't connected to or engrafted into the big tree. Okay? It's not there. It's gaining the shade of the big tree. It's gaining some of the benefit of the big tree, but it's not a part of the big tree. And in its root system, it's not as big, obviously, as the big tree. So it can't gather in as much nourishment as the big tree can. And it, in fact, takes some nourishment away from the big tree. And the big tree takes a lot of nourishment away from the smaller tree. So neither the big tree nor the small tree are gaining the full benefit of what they could gain because they're not intertwined with one another. They're not producing what they could produce if they were. And again, now, this gentleman found a way to take fruits, seeds, implantations from 40 different kinds of trees. He has, let me see if I've got them written down here. Yes, all varieties of peaches, apricots, cherries, nectarines, and plums. Now that's a lot of fruit. All growing on the same tree. He found a way and found out that if he took the seeds from the apricots, put them on the cherry tree, that they grew. And they didn't grow out cherries. They grew out apricots. And then he found a way to take plums and put them on the cherry apricot tree. And guess what? Plums came out, et cetera, until he had one tree that was growing 40 different kinds of fruit. Now, these fruits are individual, of their own. They taste like you would expect them to taste, different from the other fruits that are on the tree, completely, and yet they gain the benefit, the same benefit as all the other fruits on that tree. And rather than being a smaller tree parked beside the big tree, they're now a part of the big tree. And because they're growing full and healthy, the cherries gather some more of the juice and the sweetness of the plums, and they're even sweeter. And the plums gain some of the tart, wonderful, yummy that cherries have, and the plums become even yummier, and on and on and on. And what happens is they draw strength from one another. They draw nourishment from one another. They draw taste from one another. They become better because the other people or the other fruits people who are not like them are there in the same tree nourishing them. And you can do that, like I said, in the context of your church, in the context of your family, in the context of your workplace. I mean, I know there's lots of days when I go to work and I think, I just want to do my job and just get through this day. When, if I were to think about it like, I am part of this work tree. I'm part of this. And if I put everything that I have in this so that I can help so-and-so's job to be easier and so-and-so's job to be easier, and they begin to work seeing what I'm doing, and they begin to do the same thing, and before long, we're all in the same tree. and we're all working together, and we're all nourishing each other, and we're all making the whole workplace better because of it. It's like if you ask Cord Earhart, he will tell you his teams would be terrible if he had 6 guys running and all they cared about was their individual goals. He will tell you that teams will never, ever, ever be successful until they are, in fact, a team. And they are working, pulling for one another and with one another to establish a goal. Now note, the tree doesn't dominate the fruit. The tree doesn't say, you have to conform and you have to be like this. It's not a tree of conformity. It's a tree of nourishment and growth. That's the magic of this thing. Now, it's it's a thing where you kind of have to be fully engrafted, you know? Even though you're different than others, or, you know, you may have a different way of thinking or a different way of whatever, that's really good. Because the more fruit you have, the better the tree is. The more different kinds of fruit you have, the better the tree is. The stronger it becomes, the more blessed the other fruits become. And you have this amazing, amazing tree that's growing, and then it puts out this amazing, beautiful color array. And God is that trunk, and He is those roots. And everything that grows off of that comes from Him and through Him. And so He doesn't care if you're a cherry or a plum or a peach or an apricot or what you are. If you're on His tree, that's what He cares about. That's what He wants. And if you are part of His tree, then He is going to bless you. He's going to bless you with all the other fruits on that tree. Now, I can tell you, just as examples, just in this church, I still abide by a budgeting plan that I didn't read in a book. You know where I learned it from? From this man right here. He taught that message 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. I still abide by it. Just a small example. My inspiration for losing the 45 pounds that I've lost came from Zelena. You can tell your mom thank you. I'm driving through town and I'm seeing her running one day and I'm going, look at her work and how she's, you know, staying so fit and trim and everything. And I said, and look at me. So, you know, I said, I'm going to do something about this. I really am. I've already told you zillions of times how much I've learned from Cord Earhart, the things that he tells me. The reason I'm able to see things now that I could never see before, like the words appearing on the page and the wonderful visions that God has given me, is because I learned how to open up to it, because I didn't know how. I had no clue. And Cord taught me that. Cord taught me how to open myself up to that. I learned how to expect God to do amazing things in my life from Scott Kroll, because he told me it was going to happen. And he told me before it was going to happen, and he told me when it was going to happen, and it happened exactly when he told me it was going to happen. Things like that are amazing if we can bless each other that way. Lisa Davis once told me something that changed my life forever. Forever. You know that song we sing, Love Has a Voice, Love Has a Name, Jesus, Jesus? Okay? Well, one day after church, you know, I usually go up and I give her a big hug and I say, I love you, sis, because we have this amazing connection. We have since the day she wandered into this church. And I always go, I love you, sis. And she pulls back, and she's got a hold of my arms right here, and she says, I need to tell you something. I said, okay, what? Because she does that all the time. She told me something this morning. I need to tell you something. She grabbed me, and she looked in my eyes, and she said, love has a voice, love has a name, and it's Mark. Changed my life forever. Because you know what happened? I became that. In everything I did, I became more loving. I became more understanding. I became more of what Jesus wants me to be, like Him, because somebody cared enough to walk up and look me in the eye and say that. These things are powerful, incredibly powerful things. And we can bless one another like that. You see, because her fruit's different from mine. It's a heck of a lot sweeter for one thing, I promise you that. You know, it is. We're different fruits, but we're in the same tree. And look how she blessed me, right? I thank God every day of my life and every night when I go to bed that that woman lying beside me is there. I would not be the man I am but for her. I would not be the man I am but for the blessing that she is in my life. We're different fruits, trust me. There's something just like those, you know, the funny things that I read. There are some times when she comes up with things and I go, where in the world did that come from? You know, but I accept the fact that we're different. And I also know that I have a responsibility to make sure that my family grows in that same tree, that we're not fragmented, that we are growing together, that we're using the roots together, and we're getting better together, and our fruit is developing together. And that's an amazing job. And it's my number one job besides doing this, bringing heaven to earth. So I want every family in here, and I want this church to all be one big tree. I want our fruit to develop and to grow, and I want our fruit to bless one another. And I want my fruit to become sweeter, because people like Lisa Hacker, who has got to be one of the sweetest, caringest, angelic people on planet Earth, touched my life. I can look at every face in here, every single one of you. I have either learned something from or gotten some kind of a gift of inspiration from. Years ago, Bob gave me a book. I can't even remember the title. I could not put that thing down. I couldn't put it down. He walked up to me after church one day and he said, you know what? You got up and said something today, and now I know who this I'm supposed to give this book to. I was blessed by him just giving me a book to read. You know what I'm saying? It's things like that, okay? And I know he's kidding, but he does it a lot. John will walk up to me and he'll put his arm around me and he'll say, Mark, you are a stud among studs. Okay. Okay, you didn't have to laugh. But I know what he means by that. Okay, I know what he means by that. It's just John's way of saying, you know what, Mark, I really like you. I think you're pretty cool. And I tell you what, I miss him. I miss him so much because we used to work together, and the discussions we used to have and the things that we used to accomplish in that store, and I miss him. I miss him a ton. And if I had the control that we would both be working in the same place, we would be. So the only way I'm going to do that is start my own business and hire John to run it for me. So. But anyway, you understand what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? Mike and Wanda, talk about inspiration. Oh my gosh. Talk about pouring your life out to make sure that the people you leave behind, that their life is better. Would that God would bless me with that. Ay. Talk about people that already have a mansion and they got an interior decorator. You know? They got things good. Their mansion is already, that sucker's already got furnished and it's got Rembrandts inside of it. It just, you draw inspiration from people like that. You really, really do. And God rest his soul, my dead father-in-law. There isn't a life that man didn't touch. If you met Nellis Creek, he touched you in a positive way. He did. Think of how his fruit blessed every other fruit in this tree. Think of how he did that and what it meant to us and how sad we were when his fruit got plucked, only to be eaten by Jesus himself. Only to be eaten by Jesus himself. He was so good and so ripe and so tasty, and it developed to his fullest that Jesus said, now I can partake of Nellis. But you know what? Out of Nellis's branch, guess what else grew? Nancy and Melissa and Amy and the other two and the grandkids. And they're out there on that tree. And they're growing and they're receiving nourishment from all the rest of us on that tree. And they're getting bigger and they're getting brighter and they're getting fuller and they're getting tastier. And they're blessing everybody below them. It's just the way it is. And what a beautiful message, Lisa. Thank you. What a beautiful, beautiful message. And how funny it is. When she pulled this thing, she said, should I go get that thing I painted? I don't know how long ago you painted this, a couple years ago? I don't know. But anyway, she pulled it out here and I went, oh my gosh, it's the same color as the tree of 40 fruits. So he had inspired Lisa on, excuse my blindness here, 2013, 2 years ago, he had inspired her to paint this. And 2 years later, he had inspired her, let's talk about the tree of 40 fruits in front of the house. Yeah, you okay? I know this. You see, tears of happiness. It's okay. It's good to know that you're in such a place. It's good to know that you're in such a place. It's good to know that you're a part of a tree that can bless you like this, that you can pull from. I'm blessed by Andrew's t-shirts every week. Every week.
Bring that up every Sunday.
They're amazing. You know, if he was older than me, I would literally go ask him to will them to me because they're so good. Unfortunately, you will be carrying on God's work long after I'm gone. But from my own experience, I have grown beyond my wildest expectations, beyond my wildest thought processes, because I'm a part of this tree. I have grown. My relationship with that trunk has become welded. And I'm not talking about perma-weld out of a tube. I'm talking about welded. I am engrafted into that trunk because I'm a part of this tree. I wasn't before I got here. And I am now. And I can only hope that I'm blessing you the way that you guys have blessed me. I can only hope that my fruit is making yours a little bit tastier. I can only hope that the branches that are coming off of my branch can grow even stronger, even bigger, even riper, even tastier than I will ever become. So I guess the message is cherish the fact that you're part of that tree. Whether it's the family tree, the church tree, the work tree, whatever it is, cherish the fact that you're a part of that tree and just embrace it. And let those roots fill you up. And let that trunk forever be your strength. And let's forever be the tree of 150 fruits. And you know what? The more fruits we bring in, the stronger we become. So if we gather more and we end up with 200 and 300 and 400 and 500, the tree will be that much stronger because we will all be pulling from more fruit and more strengths, and we'll be gaining more from everyone, and we will be blessing more. And it will just be a wonderful, amazing, growth process for this big hunk of a tree that we now have in our church, in our families, in our work sites, wherever we may be.